All right. Welcome into the latest edition of Bleav in Steelers, powered by FanDuel. Jarrett Bailey here with you, as always, joined today by my good friend from Penn Live, Nick Farabaugh. Good to see you, pal. How are you?
I am well, man. How are you doing?
I'm okay. We had our first snowfall of like the season this past week. I don't know. Did you get hit hard over in your neck of the woods? We got a decent amount over here in the Brentwood area.
Yeah, we got hit like half decent here. Especially on what was it? I think Monday is when it really came down,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, we got hit pretty good enough. It wasn't terrible, but still like I don't know, 3 inches probably. I had to shovel the driveway, so
Yeah, I didn't even have a shovel before Monday. I just realized that, and so like me and the lady like panicked and had to like run to Walmart and get a shovel. So it's nice though. Like once you get past Thanksgiving, did you go Black Friday shopping? You a
I did
Black Friday guy?
not.
We did, and it was great because it was like cold but like sunny and like flurrying. Oh, it was like a Hallmark movie. It was the best. Oh, I love this time of year. I say all that to mask the fact that the Steelers are 6-6 and make every Sunday as fun as a colonoscopy. They are 5.5 point underdogs to Baltimore on Sunday, uh, which feels fair enough. Although Baltimore not playing their best football over the last month or so. Lamar Jackson hasn't had a touchdown in a month, and he also didn't practice on Thursday. That feels pretty notable. We'll see if he is on the field today and what his game designation will be. I assume he's playing, but
Yeah.
we've seen stranger things happen. But from the Steelers front of things, the biggest news of the week: new receiver Adam Thielen, claiming him in somewhat of a surprising move, especially when you take into consideration the things that he said that he wanted, which was, to play, finish out his final season playing games, but also like it felt like he wanted to be on a contender. I don't know if this is exactly the spot that you'd want to go in that case. What have you seen from Thielen in his first week in a Steeler uniform?
Well, when I looked at someone that was super washed earlier this year, Robert Woods, I was like, he's done. I watched Adam Thielen in practice the last 2 days, and, like, I think there's still something there. I don't think he's completely done. Like, I mean, he had a phenomenal end of the year last year in
Mhm.
Carolina. Like, I think he could still be a useful player. Do I think the Steelers are the offense to maximize that? Absolutely not. I think he's kinda just like an underneath savvy vet. Um, Kind of fits what they want because that's all they do really is they win underneath, and they try to do that. I think he can block. I think he's a bigger bodied guy. Probably takes snaps away from like Ben Skowronek, which I think is fine because
Darn.
it will at least like help the Steelers play action game in those instances. I think because you won't know if it's a run or a pass. Like it's not going to be a tell. It's Skowronek comes on the field, everyone's like, oh, they're going to run the ball.
Right.
Um, and so I think that'll at least be something. But like, let's be real, man. This isn't going to change their season. Um, in fact, like I think this is going to be the week MVS comes up to, and I
I'd hope
think
so.
I think we're going to see MVS and Thielen, and I think we're going to see a lot more of Roman Wilson because if you watch the film, Roman's open.
He's at least getting open, yes,
Right.
and that's been something positive to see from him.
He's been getting open. Too bad the quarterbacks can't throw a go ball. It's just it's pretty rough in that respect. But yeah, I think Thielen will be somebody that brings a bigger body presence, maybe to like 12 personnel packages. Some of their spread looks, I think he can allow them to move DK around a little more and maybe get him some advantageous matchups or at least change the coverage picture a little bit. So there are things they can do there. But I don't really think Thielen changes a whole bunch.
I don't either. It's how do I want to put this? For lack of a better term, it's like polishing a turd. It's like, yeah, well, it's still not great. Um, and seeing him in 16, like there's just some numbers that don't look right, and seeing him in 16 just felt gross. I do think when you look at what they had ahead of this, where it was okay, Calvin Austin just isn't it. Roman Wilson, we pointed out, he's getting open, but not getting the opportunities. They're just not deep at the position. So at least it made sense as to you look at your situation, you throw a dart at the board and hope that it sticks with Thielen. This is also why you don't wait till December to try to do something at the position. where that's why March, April, May, June, July, the entire offseason, you try to add one of these guys that were available, could be traded for, etc. But we'll see. I'm keeping an eye though on the anytime touchdown stuff, because if he does get a helmet, which it sounds like we're both assuming he will, I'm gonna throw like $10 on it, because it's gonna be astronomical odds where it's like, oh, plus 1,900 for Adam Thielen. Yeah, what the hell? Why not? So I'll keep an eye on that in MVS. But you do think MVS gets elevated this week too?
I do. I think this is the week that they kind of have to turn over every stone. Um, I just like really think when you look at what he brings to the table, MVS is kind of what they might. They don't have a guy downfield, like a big bodied
Mhm.
guy downfield that could at least stretch the field with speed. Um, outside of DK, and
And even then,
they
DK
obviously
hasn't been the best separator this year, so that's MVS has at least that more so in his repertoire than DK does.
right, and so I think he can bring that to the table. And DK has been bracketed so much that maybe you can get at least some one-on-one chances where you can just throw the ball down the field and
Yeah.
Flacco it. Like they haven't even had chances to do that this year. It feels like Rodgers just gets the ball out so quick, it's insane. So I think MVS can bring something, but again, I don't really think any of these things fix this offense right now. And I don't even some of the offensive issues to me are like personnel deployment. Like we've talked
Mhm.
about Jonnu playing over Muth, like that's a big one.
I haven't at first, like, I could understand that just considering like what John did last year, but the offense isn't maximizing what he did well last year, which is getting him like middle of the field yak opportunities. Um, so I am curious as to why there seems to be like this hesitancy to put Fryermuth on the field.
So I don't really understand it either because in 2024, Muth was ninth in EPA per target and among tight ends. This year he's 11th. Like it's not like he's fallen off.
Right.
You watch the tape with his limited opportunities, he gets open, he finds spots in zones, he makes catches. I know he had that rough patch early in the year where things really weren't necessarily clicking there, but since then he's been very solid. I think people in the fan base kind of think he's not very good. I very much disagree. I think if you put Fryermuth in an offense with an offense coordinator that knew what they were doing, I think he's a legitimately good flex tight end in this league. So
If he was in like a McVay Shanahan offense, he would be putting up numbers.
I agree. I 100% agree. So he's a useful player. He's their second best pass catcher. I just don't understand that. Like, but really, when we're kind of talking about what they're doing at wide receiver, I do just think even for Arthur Smith, and I have my issues with Arthur Smith, one of those being personal deployment. I
Mhm.
just think it's hard to scheme around the lack of wide receivers outside of DK that you have, plus how these quarterbacks are playing. So it's just hard, I think, for any play caller to scheme around what he's gotten out of his quarterback room, especially over the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, that's been like my one thing where definitely not saying Art's perfect. But in terms of like the defenses of him, like what else is he supposed to do? You look at just the complete lack of talent there, where outside of DK, there's not a proven receiver on the depth chart. And teams have realized that, and they've said, all right, yeah, go ahead, try to beat us with Roman Wilson, try to beat us with Calvin Austin. It's great that like Darnell's been a very fun, integral part of the offense, but like he's not beating you downfield. So like teams haven't had to worry about that. If you get a 17-yard completion to Darnell Washington every 3 drives, all right. If you're a defense, you can kind of live with that because you're not going to get beat over the top. So um, when it comes to running the ball, though, the big topic of conversation over the last like month has been, why is Kenneth Gainwell basically out snapping Jalen Warren? And my thought has been this, where it's like, I have nothing against Kenneth Gainwell. He's fine, and he's actually, played well. But I just don't get the same thing with Fryermuth. I don't know what Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin seem to have against Jalen Warren as a player, where they just keep Kenneth Gainwell on the field more often than they put him on the field.
I don't get it. Like that 4th and 2, you had to have the game last week. Yeah, why is Gainwell on the field? Why isn't that
Right.
Jalen Warren? They utilize Warren in spots, and when he is the center of the offense, they really cook on offense. He is the best offensive player you have.
Yeah.
I don't think they realize that right now. Listen, I get it. He's not your traditional big kind of workhorse back. He's like 5'8", 210, all muscle hamster. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. I'm not asking for him to be Le'Veon Bell and get 100% of the snaps and play all the time, but I mean, we're talking about a guy that has been, I think, outsnapped in each of the last 4 games by Kenny Gainwell. Um, I just don't understand that. And Gainwell's been a really nice player, as you mentioned.
Right.
Um, but you barely get any Jalen Warren third down snaps, so you're not seeing the receiving kind of spot side of him, which we know is really good. He's a great receiver. Um, and he's right now only playing 54.6% of the snaps. I think that's really brutal to
That's
think
like
about.
barely more than what he was getting at the end of last year, where he overtook Najee for snaps. But we thought coming into the season, okay, this will be the year where Warren's getting like, I don't know, 65 to 70, somewhere in that range. But it's been much more even than even when they drafted Caleb Johnson. It's like, yeah, but still, Jalen's going to be the bell cow. And we've seen Jalen and Kenneth Gainwell. Caleb Johnson's been like an afterthought.
Right. Well, Caleb Johnson hasn't caught on to the moving train or anything of the such, and so that's been disappointing. But not having Jalen as the center of your offense is one of these things we talk about where, like, the easy part of the job as a coach is supposed to be scout your personnel, know how to deploy them, and the Steelers don't even get the layups right. I've said this time and time again on both sides of the football. I just don't think they scout their players correctly.
I
They
agree.
don't put them in positions to win. Like Jonnu Smith, why is he inline blocking at all? Mike McDaniel last year put him out wide. Said basically it was a tell that they were going to pass the football when Jonnu Smith was on the field, and he said, "Whatever, we're going to get him opportunities in space." And obviously, it worked for Jonnu. And so I don't understand what, like, where's that coaching? And Jalen Warren feels like the same example of that. Why is he not the center of the offense?
That's why I'm very hesitant on buying into whoever they draft at quarterback if this is the regime that's there. I just don't have any faith that their talent evaluation is going to win over. It doesn't matter who they draft.
It's not even talent evaluation necessarily. I mean, I think there's some good picks, littered in there. Like I think Keanu Benton's a legitimately very good player. He's not a nose tackle,
No,
and they
for
just
sure.
keep playing him at nose. Like you can put together good players and kind of construct a roster that is worthy of kind of melding together. If the coaching staff doesn't articulate or put through that vision, the team building side of it doesn't even matter at that
Right.
point. So there's to a degree some diminishing returns there. So I don't know. We'll kind of see where things go, but it's hard to trust that the coaching staff even knows how to like self scout and put together the right game plan week in and week out for each player and how to maximize them.
Yeah. Since week 8, both of these offenses haven't been great. The Steelers are 27th in EPA. The Ravens are 19th. So whatever the over under is for this game, let's actually get it pulled up here. It seems to always be a safe bet to go under. It's 43.5, which is higher than it's been largely over the past like handful of years with these two teams. But we've seen points get scored. I think last year the regular season game of Baltimore is 34-17, playoff game 28-14. So we've seen a little bit more points being scored. But with Lamar still seemingly nagged by the hamstring or whatever's going on with his leg, the Steelers, we know what's going on there. It's just they put up 166 yards of offense against Buffalo. Nick, like, good Lord, like it's almost impressive how bad they were against the Bills. So defensively, feels like it's going to be a game that, all right, if somebody makes a splash play that could swing momentum, kind of saw that last year where Russ had that scramble inside the red zone and then fumbled and then throws the pick six. And those two plays are what decided the game. Feels like the Steelers are going to need something defensively in terms of splash plays, turnovers, which is, what they usually bank on anyway on that side of the ball.
They're going to need something because I mean, I just think the more talent you have offensively, the more likely you are to figure out your issues eventually. I know Lamar doesn't look like Lamar and everything, but it's still a talented offense. I mean,
Sure.
you still got Zay Flowers, you still got the same pieces that everyone knows. Derrick Henry's still there. And the real issue in this game It's not even Lamar. It's the Steelers even going to be able to slow down Derrick Henry? Because I think that's the real issue. If Lamar has to do what Josh Allen did, which was, hey, hand the ball off to your running back all day, make 2 or 3 plays that are really impressive, I think he can do it.
Hmm.
I mean, we saw a few times last week against the Bengals where Lamar still was able to pull out just a little bit of the magic. Of course, on one of those, Isaiah Likely fumbled the ball through the end
Right.
zone. Um, so there's that. I think the Ravens have not been fluid at all offensively. I mean, you look at them. I mean, they've gotten into the bare knuckle boxing fights with the Browns, the Jets. It's not been pretty. So, the Steelers, another game that we can say very winnable for Pittsburgh. But it's hard to look at this and say, man, they're going to be able to outscore the Ravens, even though the Ravens aren't the Ravens. But Lamar's injuries are significant because he's not moving around like he did.
Hmm.
He's easier to sack as a result of that. The accuracy is just all over the place right now. How many times did he just sail passes last week?
Oh yeah.
I think that was something. So he's making lackadaisical plays in the pocket. Like he's clearly just not 100%. And so you would hope this week, you can get really good play out of your edge rushers and your front four. But I do think, missing Derek Harmon is going to be really big because we've just not seen them be able to stop the run without Derek Harmon in there.
Yeah, that was the next point I was going to make. I mean, they drafted Derek Harmon probably in large reason because of what happened in the playoff game when Derrick Henry just did whatever he wanted. Not having him out there is certainly something to watch. I assume we get more opportunities for Y.A. Black, who has become a little bit more of a focal point in the rotation over the last few weeks. He had the punch out and the fumble recovery a few games ago. So we've seen him, grow in his own right. But yeah, if the Ravens are able to do what Buffalo did last week, you talked about, Lamar being easier to sack. I mean, the Bills were playing 2 backup tackles last week, and the Steelers couldn't put together a sack. So that's my worry, is that the pass rush just feels kind of cooked right now. DJ Watt hasn't looked great. Um, Alex Highsmith's been in and out of the lineup. The only one that's been like super reliable of the three has been Nick Herbig. So I worry about the pass rush because they had an ample opportunity to take advantage last week against Buffalo, and they made Alec Anderson and Ryan Van Denmark look like Jonathan Ogden and Walter Jones.
Yeah, I mean, it also doesn't help when every single team has their lowest time to throw of the year. I think it
Mm,
has literally happened in all but one game, which was the first one against Justin Fields. I think every single team has just quick gamed them. And I think that's predictability is scheme to a degree. The Steelers really haven't figured out how to stop that from happening. It's kind of crazy, actually, that it was acknowledged last week by Tara Austin, and I mean, the Bills moved the pocket really well in that game, did some bootleg stuff for Josh Allen. He would take off if nothing was there. Like we've seen the same thing happen. Even Caleb Williams, who was notorious for holding onto the football for
mm,
so long, 2.6 seconds against the Steelers, career low for him. Like
that's absurd.
it's just wild that these teams just get the ball out super quick. So why wouldn't Lamar do the same thing?
Hmm.
And then it would mitigate everything we've been talking about with Lamar. If he could just stand in there, throw a 5-yard curls to Isaiah Likely, and then you get 10 yards, after the catch, boom, that's what teams have been doing to the Steelers all year. So I do think that's going to be something to watch. The other thing to watch is the Steelers are just really like banged up in the secondary. I mean, we've seen a lot of injuries there. Joey was limited yesterday. Duggar didn't practice yesterday. Ramsey's not practiced in 2 days. It's rust, but that's a little curious. You almost wonder if
Hmm.
Ramsey's a little hurt and banged up just because he's been so active at safety the past few
Yeah.
weeks since moving there. You almost wonder if he's a little banged up. So they're just hurt in the secondary right now, too. So, I mean, I don't know. Is Duggar going to play? I think that's a question. Pierre's in concussion protocol. Like, there's questions literally about, I think, every starting player in their base package right now. The only guy that I know is healthier is nickel corner Brandon Eccles. So I guess we'll have to see how that goes. I mean, I think it might be, Duggar is a kind of a bigger box guy anyways, but it almost might be a Jabril Peppers game. I wouldn't
Mm,
hate that idea if you want to try and almost use him as like a third linebacker, especially with PQ questionable. So, on top of everything else we've kind of talked about with just the things that they've struggled on defense, they are really just they're hurt right now
Hmm.
too. It's they're down their top linebacker potentially. Safeties are banged up. The corners are banged up. They're missing their really standout interior defensive linemen. They're down like 4 backup off interior defensive linemen. Like Deshaun Elliott's out. Like it's starting to catch up to them. Like this defense is really banged up right now too.
Starting to feel like what was that 2023? Whenever they moved Pat Pete back to safety, they brought in Eric Rowe. Who was the former, was it Blake Martinez that they signed to the practice
Yep.
squad?
Signed Miles Jack off the
Miles
couch.
Jack, yeah, they got him. He was working like he had his construction company. They gave him a call, like, "Hey, can you come play for a few weeks?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
Michael Walker. I remember
Oh
that.
my God, yeah, Michael Walker, Mykal Walker. Yes,
Yep.
yeah. So it does feel like they are getting a little bit depleted. Joey Porter, man, like I think that's become like a legitimate concern that he's always hurt. A little bit to worry about it in terms of like a extension and whatnot. But is that a question that you would have if you're similar? We talked to Omar Khan at the combine about it, about Corey Trice, where he's like, yeah, we like Corey, but health has been a concern. Obviously, Joey was drafted in the top of the second round. Corey Trice is a day 3 pick, but do you think that could be something that they look at in terms of evaluating Joey and keeping him around for the long term?
He's been banged up, but I think he missed 3 games this year with the hammy, and he hasn't missed another one. So I think
Hmm.
that's helped out. But he's been perpetually banged up. Yeah, I think that's something to think about. He's also just not a great tackler on top of that, which is
He did tackle well against Buffalo on Sunday, though. I'll give him credit for that.
he tried. I don't necessarily agree he tackled well.
Hmm.
The reason I don't think so is because he didn't trigger downhill very well. He didn't crack replace a lot on the edge. Like there were
I mean,
these are reasons
there
some
was
of those
certainly
weren't.
times where Buffalo took advantage of him over pursuing to one side. They
Yes.
did a lot of those power and counter plays where they just could count on Joey Porter over pursuing to one side. So
Yes.
certainly not saying he's a great run defender, great tackler, but I thought that he had moments at least where showed a lot of effort where other
Sure.
guys were not.
Sure. He tried, but I don't know if it always necessarily parlayed itself into
Sure.
meaningful play. But when you do look at when you really look at Pittsburgh and in general you look at Joey, he's been banged up, but I'm not sure it's anything to be like, I don't want to give him a contract over.
Mm.
Like if there's other reasons to not give him a contract, if you don't want to give him a contract. That's just my take on it.
Sante Samuel Jr. I mean, was he signed to like the active roster like full time now, or is he still on
Yes.
the? Okay, just
Yeah,
making sure. Wanted
he's
to
on the
get my
active
facts
roster full
straight.
time now. So
Okay.
they should be able to utilize him. I would not be surprised just with Pierre and Porter banged up if he plays a lot.
Hmm.
He looked good against the Bills. So we'll kind of see. He had that really nice hit stick as well one time
He
on
did.
James Cook. And I think that was something, they were wondering if he was going to be a little bit tentative just because of the neck surgery. Certainly does not appear so. So I think that's good news for them.
Yeah. And look, sign me up for a long term cornerback pairing of Joey Porter and Asante Samuel on the outside with Brandon Eccles at nickel. I could get down with that.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Eccles has played really well this year. I think that's been like the Deshaun Elliott signing of this year. He's been
Yeah.
a real gem of a find. He's played extremely well. So we'll see what they do going forward. I think Pierre's going to come back too. On top of that, he's played well this year. Like out of nowhere, James Pierre has played
Yeah,
really
that's been a
well.
very nice story for James Pierre because, like, in what 2021, he had that stretch of games where he got beat over the top against Cincinnati, got beat over the top by the Raiders and Henry Ruggs, and like he just constantly unplayable at times. So to see him in this like second stint get thrown into the fire and play well has been pretty cool.
Yeah, good for him, man. So they have some interesting cornerback pieces at least to work with.
Mhm.
Um, but we'll see. I think Asante Samuel Jr.'s got to kind of give himself a bit of an audition, not just for the Steelers, but for the rest of the league this offseason. And he could maybe cash in on that, and we'll kind of see where things go there. But I do think the Steelers have to look at what they want to do because that's going to be a bit of a crowded room, kind of. And Pierre's a free agent, Samuel's a free agent. Eccles is going to go. Eccles and Porter in the last year of their deals, so like there's going to be questions to be had there too. But I do think the Steelers at least have some actual depth at corner right now where it's like, okay, I think they're okay. Porter has been very good in covers this year. I do think that's been one thing. He's been excellent as a cover corner. So while he has struggled, in the tackling department at times, penalties have largely gone away over the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 games. He really hasn't been called for many. And he's been given some really tough assignments and he's risen to the challenge. So I do think that's been also good to see.
All right, let's pick this thing again. The Steelers 5.5-point dogs on the road against Baltimore. I don't know where to lead. I found myself like, anytime they play Baltimore, I feel somewhat confident. They're 7-3 in the last 10 against the Ravens. Obviously, have lost the last 2. I'll probably lean Baltimore here, but like I'm not gonna be totally shocked if the Steelers win this because they, like I said, they tend to play Baltimore pretty well. So I'll say ball. You know what? No, I'll be ballsy. I'll pick the Steelers. I'll say 20-17. It'll be close. I'll go with the Kyle Brandt theory of, yeah, they probably shouldn't win this game, but they will because that's what the Steelers do.
Yeah, I mean it is the classic Mike Tomlin. Everyone's doubting you, backed up against the wall.
That's the theory that I have right now.
I don't blame anyone for picking them. I just, in good conscience, cannot. I really think that they have played so poorly the past really month or so that I have to assume something is going to go wrong. Whether it's the offense just imploding like they did in the second half last week, the defense getting all run over, or I could even see a scenario, and I've thought about the scenario through my head this week of, oh, the Steelers do stop Derrick Henry, and then all of a sudden Lamar's back, and he throws for 200-300 yards on top of their heads, and the Ravens' passing attack looks crisper than it ever has. I could easily see that happening because it's happened before, where the Steelers just 1 week the run defense stinks, they fix it, and the pass defense falls off. It's like the last time they played a truly complete game with Cincinnati. Defensively, it'd be nice to have one this week, but I'm taking the Ravens in this one. I'll take them 24-14.
Oh, 10-point win. Okay, so we're just
Because I just think the Steelers offense has been so bad. I just cannot. I don't know how they get to 20 points without like a defensive touchdown, which could happen, but it has been so brutal to watch the Steelers offense over the past month.
It has. And it feels like you can kind of set your watch to the Steelers and their offense just kind of hitting the fan and just being horrible around this time. What they've lost, was it 5 of their last 7?
Yep.
And you can really set your watch to like an end of season collapse with them pretty consistently over the last decade or so. This year hasn't been any different. So with that, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least ask you what you think about, the cause for, we've been here before, bud. Like the stuff with Tomlin, you can make the argument that they should have moved on after last season and the loss to Baltimore in the playoffs. You can make the argument that maybe they should have just started anew when Ben retired and just, start over there. Hindsight being 2020, of course. But like I said, we've been here before. I said last week, or earlier this week, excuse me, that this is like the first time that I could actually see them moving on from him. Like we can say, they should do this, they should do that. But in the end, we all knew, okay, yeah, but he's not going anywhere. I still think he's going to be there next year, but like there is a part of me that wouldn't be totally surprised if they actually did part ways in the offseason.
I am not expecting it. I'm expecting shakeup on the staff. Like I don't think Terrell Austin's going to be back. Potentially, maybe even Arthur Smith. Like I could see them flipping over both coordinators and just trying to have a completely clean slate. The other thing is, this is really not a good. Like it's not viewed around the league as a very good batch of coaching candidates. It's not. And I think that is something when you're thinking about moving on from Mike T, you want to at least have like, okay, there's a few guys in mind that, there's Clint Kubiak and
that's I think that's kind of the dream right now for Steelers fans is Clint Kubiak, at least for me.
I think that they would be interested in Brian Flores. I think they might make a run at like a Marcus Freeman because I could see that.
Maybe Jesse Minter.
Right. So there's like a few guys, but there's not like a Ben Johnson type. There's not like a home run where it's like, yes, this guy is elite. And I don't know what Art Rooney would want. Would he want another defensive minded head coach, or does he want to flip it to the offensive side? If you want offensive minded head coach, there's not as many this year. I think
Yeah.
that's the one thing. If you want defensive minded, though, there are opportunities, sure. Jesse Minter is like the updated version of Tomlin's scheme in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So that could be something. I can also, I mean, I think we've kind of talked about this before, where it's just like things have kind of just run their course. I certainly think Mike T could leave Pittsburgh and go to another place and win. Like don't I'm not gonna go against that. I just think you look at the talent evaluation, the coaching hires, the actual game day coaching, different things that have happened over the past 5 and 6 years, and it's like really hard for me to construct an argument for them to keep him. I
Yeah.
just think we're at that point right now. But I am fully kind of expecting them to keep him. Here's the one thing: I don't think they're going to fire him. I think if he is not here next year, it's because Mike T walks away.
I agree. They're not going to fire him, and if he wants to keep coaching, it'll be like they'll frame it however they want to do, where it's like, oh, Mike wanted to start somewhere else. And look, if it's been the conversation for the last month, or really that's putting it lightly. It's been the conversation for the last like 4 years, where if Mike does go somewhere else, if he goes to the Giants, he'll probably stabilize them and make them competitive. If he goes to Tennessee, he'll probably stabilize them and make them competitive. And no one's arguing that. Two things can be true. He could go somewhere else and help a Tennessee or a Giants team get back to even keel and be respectable again. But that doesn't defend. That's not a good defense as to why the Steelers should keep him, is because, he'll go somewhere else and help stabilize him. Who cares? So I am on board with that. And look, I've said this a lot too, and I think it's important to say when discussing this, like, something against Mike as a guy. It's just like we have to call it like it is, and the results just haven't been there. When you go 8 years, potentially 9 now without a playoff win, like nobody should live through that in terms of being able to keep their job. So if he does go somewhere else, I agree with you. It will be, they'll frame it as, all right, mutual parting of ways. Mike wanted to go somewhere else. We're going to send him to the Giants. We're going to send him to the Titans, and that'll be that.
Yeah, I could see that happening, and it would be best for both parties, I think, to a degree. But I also just think Mike. The reason I don't think Mike's going to want to walk away, I think the Steelers came into this offseason and set out with a plan that they had their eyes on the 2026 draft, and they
I
wanted a
agree.
quarterback. And so I think he's going to want to draft a quarterback and see if he could hit on somebody. So I don't know. It's hard for me to envision unless this thing just gets so ugly. Maybe they have to like lose out. They look non-competitive. Things just look so bad. It's just so hard for me to envision them moving on from Mike, because I think internally, while they gave this like outwardly facing kind of, oh, we are adding these big flashy names like Rodgers, Ramsey, Jonnu, Slay. Internally, they never thought they were all in. Like, it was just, hey, let's be competitive again. It's a transition year. Like, we're trying to figure out some things, and let's see what we can do. But they were never all in, and I do think that is gonna be like, okay, Mike, Omar, your shot. Like, go get the quarterback. And so I just don't think he's gonna walk away from that, because I think he loves doing that stuff, and so I imagine he will stay here at least another year, probably. I mean, 26 is going to be the come to kind of Jesus moment, because it's really hard. I don't think Mike T would go for the Mike McCarthy arrangement where like he coaches on the last year of his contract where it might expire. I don't think Mike Tomlin is stupid. He is not going to do that. So that would be, I think, the kind of time next year is going to be the really big year to discuss that. But I have a hard time seeing him leave this year.
So just to like verify like his contract. So he signed through the 2027 season, which means that he would coach the 2027 season. That's part of the okay. I always have difficult time interpreting that.
Yes.
That's my thing though, is I, respectfully speaking, I don't want him touching the next quarterback, because I just don't believe in him as in terms of an X's and O's guy at this point. I think the game has passed him by. And in terms of his approach to winning and his approach to offense, I just don't think that is sustainable for the NFL in what will be 2026. If it was 2008 again, sure, I'm sure it could work. But I don't trust this coaching staff with, it could be Jesus of Nazareth under center. I would still have my trepidations when it comes to what they're going to do at quarterback. So that's my biggest worry. Do you have a guy right now that you think would make the most sense for them in terms of where they're projected to draft?
My guess is where they are, because I think Moore and Mendoza are going to be 1-2.
I agree.
The guy that probably makes the most sense for them is Ty Simpson, I would say. If you really wanted to take like the toolsy guy that's high end talent, but still has a lot to work on, it would be Sellers. I don't think Sellers is going to come out though. I think he'll probably go back to school and transfer and try and find another spot to kind of develop. So the one guy that fits a lot of it is Ty Simpson, who has his own limitations and has his own questions, but he also is an anticipation thrower. He's kind of the point guard type that Arthur Smith really likes in his offense. I actually think he could be able to run those under center play action concepts that made Tannehill so really effective in Art's offense and open up some of those middle of the field windows. Like I really like the idea of a Ty Simpson, DK Metcalf kind of connection. I think they would really accentuate each other's strengths. So that's kind of my view right now. And I also, if you look at like the free agency targets, like I just don't think there's a guy that jumps out that like fits what they're necessarily going to want there. So
No.
I think that you look at it, and Ty Simpson makes the most sense to me because I think he has a reasonable chance of kind of falling down the board a little bit, because there's some questions about him, but he also kind of fits what they want, especially if Arthur Smith's back. And Arthur Smith's contract doesn't end up this year; it ends up the 2026 season. So I could see them keeping Art, especially because the offense is just honestly, even though the offense has stunk it up the last 4 weeks, it's probably overperformed expectations for much of the
Yeah, I
year.
mean, there was a point, I think, after week 7, they were top 10 in EPA per play, which,
Yes.
considering what we've already talked about with the lack of weapons and just the complete, hey, figure it outness of what you're working with, that's certainly when Canada was the offensive coordinator, Steelers fans were begging for an offense that was just mid. And overall, the season, that's what they've been. But there was a point throughout the first 2 months of the season where they were like a legitimately good offense.
Yes. So I could see him coming back, and I think Ty Simpson fits those check marks probably the best.
All right. Well, hey, buddy, I'll get you out here. I know you got to head to the facility. Appreciate you coming on. What can the people check out from you on Penn Live?
Yeah, you can check me out on Twitter at Farabaugh make sure to check out the stuff at PennLive.com/Steelers. There's a lot of stuff coming just in terms of like analysis, different things from practice. I also have a YouTube channel, the Steelers Blitz on Penn Live, where I give updates, and we have a podcast twice a week. So make sure to check that out.
All right, everybody. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe, comment. If you're listening as a podcast, be sure to review, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. We'll be back on Monday to recap Steelers, Ravens, in terms of maybe, hey, if they're 7-6, then a playoff spot still very much in the air. If they're 6-7, all right, things look pretty grim. So we'll be back on Monday to recap all of that. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll be back on Monday. It's Bleav in Steelers.